Test, test, 1, 2. Thank you. This is Rabbi Friedman's, just making sure we're on. Thanks.
the best thing about my going to school like daycare. Wants to get on the bus.
Check one.
Fired up.
You'll be in September.
Not so obvious.
Okay. Let's turn some of this nice schmoozing into some singing. Real easy. I'm going to keep it easy again. It's a lie, lie, lie situation. Lie, lie, lie. You can handle that one. Lie, 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 lie. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Same thing. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai. Lai, lai, la lai. Lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai. Lai, lai, la lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Ya la lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Shabbat Shalom. What a joy to be joined by Cantor Hyman and Rabbi Friedman and our congregational president, Hank Bernstein, and also to see Rabbi Kuhn and Emily Kuhn in the house. I know you're always in the house, but now you're in the house. So good to see you. Just back from Israel, yes? Welcome back, wonderful. And welcome to everyone online and in the sanctuary here to join together for Shabbat. Let's be sure to be among community. Please take this moment to introduce yourself in the comments or to turn around and find someone new to greet.
Good for it. I was thinking about the ball. It's like a big money night. Yeah. For us to be on strike. Hank would be not happy. Right? He'd be none too pleased. I think he'd be pretty irate if it happened to begin with. But that would.
Maybe that's the ace in the hole.
I hadn't thought about that. God, I hope it doesn't come to that. Man, he's so rough. A blue
Instead of a
T-shirt has
tux
seen
with-
better
tux
days.
with a blue t-shirt.
Right. Rip off our jackets mid-show. Shabbat Shalom. How are you? Good.
To kindle our Shabbat lights, we welcome Philip Weiss and Aviva and Samuel as we turn to page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Page 5.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
Have you heard the one about the boy who is about 6 years old and until his about 6th year remained silent, speaking not a word, until one night at the Shabbat family dinner table, the boy says, "The soup needs salt." Astonished, his parents look at him, waiting for an explanation. And he responds, "Until now, everything's been fine." For some of us, everything is fine. For some of us, everything is not fine. My guess is for most of us, it's a mix. And so tonight, we gather together, all of us with full hearts, all of us with broken hearts, all of us with open hearts, in search of the words and in search of connection. We begin in song as we take a deep breath and release, turning from the noise of the week to the peace and the joy of Shabbat. We turn to the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, page 13, that final paragraph.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, yismechu hashamayim, yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz.
Page 331 at the middle of the page.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach, Shir Hamalot, Beshuv Adonai, Et Shivat Zion, Hayinu Kechomim, Az Yemale Schok Pinu, Ulshonenu Rina, Az Yomru V'Goyim, Higdil Adonai La'asoti Mele, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
With the joy of a wedding, we welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, Nikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Nikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela. Shamor v'zachor, v'dibor echad, Yishmi'anu el ha'miuchad. Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad, L'Shem U'Tiferet Ve'Letechila, Lecha Dodi, Nikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela, Lecha Dodi, Nikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor ha'beracha, meirosh mikedem nesucha, sov ma'aseh v'machashavat techila, lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Nikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela. It'oreri, Ki ba'orecho mi'ori, Uri, Shir Daberi, Kevod Adonai, Alayich nigla, Lech לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה
Please rise.
בואי ושלום עצרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה.
Turning to page 28, we continue with our call to worship.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam va'ed, Leolam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
On the top of page 31, together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim.
Page 32.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta, Otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה, נהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 36. Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
On the top of page 39, together, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מלכותך ראו בניך, וכים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך באלים אדוני.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Turning to page 46 for the Amidah, please rise.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yakid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chaste Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer, Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol, Atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha Baal gevurot, Umito melach, Melech memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Please be seated. In the middle of page 57, together. You are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod.
Page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We take these moments for silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל שלום במרומיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
This week, a congregant who just returned home after a long hospital stay shared, "It's so good to be home. I've reached the promised land." Whatever your promised land might be, whatever exile or distance you face, dislocation of health, of home, of work, of relationship, may you find a path to healing and to wholeness. If you or a loved one has been touched with serious illness or brokenness, mind, body, or spirit, please add that name to the comments or share it aloud now. In our Shabbat program on page 4.
Il na refana la nu. Il na refana la nu. Dear God of our ancestors,
Dear God of our ancestors,
help us renew our faith.
help us renew our faith.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Bring peace to all our days.
Bring peace to all our days.
Il na refana la nu. Il na refana la nu. Restore our strength of body.
Restore our strength of body.
Help clarify our minds.
Help clarify our minds.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Rejuvenate our light.
Rejuvenate our life.
Il na refana la nu. Il na refana la nu. Thank you for all these blessings.
Thank you for all these blessings.
Throughout our days and nights,
Throughout our days and nights,
we celebrate this journey,
we celebrate this journey,
this precious gift of life.
this precious gift of life.
Il na refana la nu. Il na refana la nu. Il na refana la Refana lanu El na refana lanu
Our thoughts now move from thoughts of brokenness and healing to thoughts of joy and celebration as I am honored to welcome Emily Alexander and Benjamin Berend to come join us on the Bima. Ben and Emily will be married this Sunday, and we are kicking off the wedding weekend tonight, and it is with such joy. Actually, we already kicked it off with that hora, right? You guys, come on up here. You guys weren't expecting that, were you? Little did you know. Good practice, exactly. And I love the way all your friends and family joined in. It was really so wonderful. And we're just so thrilled that you're joined here with so many friends and family. And mazel tov to your parents, Emily, Lori Pastor, and Gary Pastor, Keith Alexander, and Lori Dabney. And Ben, to your parents, our longtime members, Susan and Daniel Berend, and also to all the rest of your family that is here, and your extended Road of Shalom family, even seeing Reuben, who you guys were here at Hebrew school together, to see him back. It's really just so special. And I'll also say that a part of that extended RS family that we're also thinking of, that who's not here tonight, a blessed memory, Lee Stanley, who I know was really your family cared for so much and was such a part of your life growing up, for you and Sophie and so many in this congregation as we remember him this week as his yahrzeit falls this Shabbat. Ben and Emily, you are a Reform rabbi's dream come true. People might not know this, but your first date was actually at the Weitzman National Museum of American Jewish History. I have to tell you, not every couple, both of you with those strong Reformed Jewish values. I'd like to say that's what brought you there. I think it was more the Bill Graham exhibit and your love of classic rock, which I share. But how wonderful that was your first date, because I think that really symbolizes a lot of your relationship, which is so rooted in Jewish values that you have brought up. And I think you share so many of those values that really we talked about, those values of tikkun olam, of repair of this world, the values of creating community, as evident by who is here tonight. You actually said to me, I don't know if you guys remember this when we were talking, I'm going to quote, you talked about creating community as a form of self-care. And I loved that idea. I thought that was just so beautiful, the way that you find that care in those others and bringing them together. You also talked about how there are no easy answers in life. And that's such I think a Jewish idea, especially Reform Judaism, that we wrestle. We wrestle with God, we wrestle with these questions. And that I think what I really appreciated you said was that together, we wrestle together with them. And the answers become easier when we have one another. And so, with the love and prayers of so many here, it is my honor to offer you this blessing now in this sacred congregation before this community, this blessing that I hope sustains you through this weekend up to your wedding day and long afterwards. Source of laughter and gladness, let your presence accompany these loving companions. Pour love over them, grant them growth, each alone and together. May health and devotion, laughter and understanding abound for them. May they have the strength to share life's sorrows, and may their love deepen and flower. Open their hearts to one another, and may their hands be open to family, to friends, to our people Israel, and to all humanity. And let us all say, Amen and Mazel Tov!
Mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, semen tov, Yelanu. Semen tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov v'siman tov. Yeilanu, 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 u'lechol Yisrael. Yeilanu, yeilanu, u'lechol Yisrael. Yeilanu, yeilanu, u'lechol Yisrael. Yeilanu, yeilanu, u'lechol Yisrael.
Mazel tov. I don't think we have enough kids to come and grab all this. Although, Valentina, if you want to come run up, or Jonah, we got some good treats here. Feel free. That's sort of the role of the little kids, right? To run up. Kid at heart over here too. So some nice. We got a few more in the front too there. Mazel tov. And we add to those blessings the other blessings in our community. And as we prepare to sing our blessing of gratitude, Shehechianu, marking this sacred moment in time and offering gratitude to God, we ask, is there anyone else celebrating tonight? And we'd love to hear some of those other simchas. And please feel free to comment in the chat as well. What else are we celebrating? Yeah, Stephanie. Oh, so nice. So nice to see so many people. Rabbi Kuhn back, to see the treatments here, to see so many wonderful new faces and returning faces. Other people celebrating.
I'm delighted to be reunited with Sharon and Ruth on such a happy occasion.
Oh, so sweet, Jack. Anyone else? Oh, well, for all of these simchas and so many more, we join together in gratitude.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kirmanu והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Amen. I want to begin tonight with a thank you to our Young Friends group, who we meet once a month for Torah study at the bar. It's a lot of fun, and I'll just give a little plug for it. I think we're off for September. We'll be back in October. So any of the young adults here, hopefully you'll join us at Bar, how do you pronounce it again, Emily? Bar Huga, you're good, where we get to tuck into the portion each week. And our discussion last night really inspired my words. So thank you to our young friends, and I'll encourage the rest of you to come join us. I think few of you are too old, few of you are too young, but I see a lot of you that are just the right age, our 20s and 30s. So I want to begin with a story from camp, actually, that some of you might have heard before. But as summer camp has just ended for many of our families, this was the last day for my kids. Many are home for the summer. An activity that I did a few years ago when I got to work at URJ Camp Harlem. And I was with a group of older students, the oldest group, the 14, 15-year-olds. And we were looking at the idea of really Jewish values and prioritizing our values and our obligations. And I did this through a fun little activity where we got to use chocolate. which is so great. And some of you may be remembering, we actually did this with our adults a few years back, and because who doesn't love chocolate, right? We can all eat it. And so we looked at the idea of a hechsher. Has anyone heard that word before, hechsher? It sounds like something you might know, kosher, right? It's the same root, which just means proper or fit. And a hechsher is that symbol that we see on food traditionally that marks something as kosher. The most common ones are like the OU, that little circle with the U in it, or I think there's like a star K or a triangle K. I don't know, there's a bunch of different ones. Well, we were looking at the idea of hechshers, but we were looking at it in a more broad sense. And we were thinking about what are the modern, perhaps not Jewish, universal hechshers that we put on foods? What are those markings that we put on a food that might talk about how proper or fit it is? So for example, one of the examples we looked at, we had maybe 20 different chocolate bars, and they all had different markings on them. And we had one that had a marking called Rainforest Alliance. Has anyone ever seen that before in your chocolate? And Rainforest Alliance means they care about the rainforest, and they're not chopping down rainforests to grow the cocoa trees. And so we're really thinking about there the Jewish value of taking care of this planet, of Bal Tashchit, of being Shomrei Adamah, guardians of this earth. What are some other hechshers, modern hechshers, that you've seen on foods? Can anyone think of any? Any ideas? What do you got? Yeah, yell it out. What do you got, Stephanie? The dolphins on tuna, that's a great one. Thinking about animal welfare, thinking about the nets and the dolphins, great example. Dolphin safe tuna. What else? Lynn? Oh, that's a great one, right? Antibiotic free, right? So we're thinking about, that one's probably more thinking about, well, partly the health of the animals. That's the Jewish value of tsar ba'alei chayim. But it's also the idea of thinking about our own health, right? And taking care of our bodies, which of course is a very important Jewish value. What else, Mark? Vegan, right? Yeah, those are other ones, other sort of dietary stuff that also maybe speaks about animals, planets. Other ones people think of, Jack? Certified organic, yeah, that's a great one. And of course, again, that sort of relates to those. What else? These are great. Fair trade is one I was hoping someone would say, right? Which is not so much necessarily about our health or about the planet, but it's really about workers and ensuring those workers are treated fairly, get a fair wage, right? Any others? That was a good list. Yeah, you got another one? I didn't hear that one. What was it? Oh, yeah, like an appellation, right? Like where something comes from, right? Is that the word? Appellation, something like that? Where like, yeah, is that what you're talking about? Something like, I don't know. But these are great. Any others? Good ones. Yeah, you got another one, Susanna? Union made. Ooh, that's a good one. Again, thinking about workers and those. Love it. These are so great. So we do this activity. I hand out all these chocolate bars, and at the end, I ask the kids, based on your values, what's the most thing that's important to you? Is it the environment? Is it workers? Which chocolate bar would you choose? And most of the kids chose the Fair Trade one or the Rainforest Alliance. And one young woman said, well, I would choose the Hershey bar. Right? I had the same reaction. And I thought, come on, really? Like, it's not organic. It's not fair trade. It's not Rainforest Alliance. I was like, really? You're going to choose the Hershey bar? And I'll be honest, I kind of said it perhaps in maybe not the best tone, maybe a little deriding. I thought she was, 15-year-olds, they're punks. I thought maybe she was giving me a hard time. And right then and there, she stood up and she said, I come from Hershey, Pennsylvania. She said, do you know about the Hershey School? Do you know what they've done in our community? Do you know about the scholarships that they give to low-income children in my neighborhood and what they've done to support our community? And I'll tell you, I was floored. And I immediately apologized for my tone. I said, to quote perhaps Judah from the famous line with Judah and Tamar in Genesis, I said, she is more right than I. And she was lifting up the value of local, of supporting her local community, of helping educating young children. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And that was the value that was most important to her. Well, this activity, which I think we could all do sometime because we get to eat lots of chocolate, really helps us think about the fact that we make choices every day in our purchasing, how we spend our time, in our philanthropic giving. We are choosing the things that are more important to us. We have to prioritize our obligations. In this week's Torah portion, we learn a little more about that idea of how we might prioritize our obligations. We read in Deuteronomy 8:1, "You shall faithfully observe all the commandment that I enjoin upon you this day. You shall faithfully observe kol ha-mitzvah, all the commandment, singular, that I enjoin upon you this day." Now we hear that, it sounds a little funny, right? What we'd expect it to perhaps say would be, you shall faithfully observe all the commandments, right? In the plural in Hebrew, mitzvot. You shall observe all the commandments. And so the rabbis immediately see this problem in the linguistics of it, and rather than just say, oh, maybe it was a typo, they say, there's something. The Torah is trying to tell us something here. Interpret me. And so the Or HaChaim, an 18th century Moroccan sage, says this: people have a tendency to pat themselves on the back and to disregard some of the commandments which they view as being of minor significance. Moses, therefore, admonishes each and every one of us to not forget, perform the whole range of God's commandments. The only effective way Moses found to bring this point across was by describing all the 613 commandments as one single commandment, kol ha-mitzvah. So according to the Or HaChaim, by writing this kol ha-mitzvah, one commandment, it makes us think. We know there's lots, but it makes us understand as if they're all one. Similarly, there's a midrash, a story from our tradition, which also comments on this. And in this midrash, Rabbi Simeon ben Yohai taught, for 2 commandments did God reveal their reward. Throughout the Torah, we're told about the commandments. We're not told about the rewards for them usually, because we're supposed to do them just because it's the right thing to do. But twice we're given a reward. For these are the lightest of the light and the weightiest of the weight. The lightest of the light one is sending away the mother from the nest, where it is written in Deuteronomy 22, and you will prolong your days. And the weightiest of the weight is honoring parents, about which it is also written in Deuteronomy and in Exodus, so that they will lengthen your days. Note that they are equal with regard to their reward in this world. So we have these 2 commandments that are both given the same reward, that you will have a long life. And we know Torah doesn't always work out that way, the way the Torah says it, unfortunately. But what the rabbis, what the sages are doing is they're comparing and looking at these 2. The lightest possible commandment is a tradition of, if you're going to take eggs from a nest, you shoo the mother away first. It's probably out of maybe thoughtfulness, I don't know, maybe it's ecology, who knows. But that's pretty easy. Clap a little, yell, the mother's going to fly away. It really doesn't take a lot of work. And your reward will be you will live a long life. And then the weightiest of the weight, honoring our parents, which is so difficult for lots of reasons for many of us, and is a lifelong endeavor, and is never just one single thing. And yet the reward is the same. And thus, what are the sages teaching us? That ultimately we don't know which mitzvot are going to be the most important in our lives. What might seem like a trivial thing to you, maybe offering a friendly ear to someone and listening, could make all the difference in someone else's life. A small donation that might seem like a trivial amount to us could be the foundation to start someone's business and totally change their lives. Now, realistically, we can't do all the commandments. And at the end of the day, we do sometimes prioritize. But the Torah is also telling us we don't always know which are the most important. And so how do we reconcile this? A number of years ago, before I came here to Rodef Shalom, I had the joy of working for Hillel, which is the Jewish student group on campus. And while I was at Columbia University, I took a group of students to El Salvador through an organization called the AJWS, the American Jewish World Service. It's a fantastic organization that takes mostly young adults to developing countries to learn about sustainable development, to learn about them through Jewish values, and to actually do this work in a community. It's really it's a fantastic organization I encourage you to learn more about, and it was such a pivotal trip for me On that trip, I actually met a wonderful leader who is now a rabbi, Rabbi Alana Alpert. And I want to read you a quote from her in which she really synthesizes these ideas so beautifully and actually is commenting on the same portion. Rabbi Alpert says, "By cautioning us not to presume that we understand the value of any individual mitzvah, tradition encourages us to accept a holistic system of halakha and not a set of individual laws. If we resist the instinct to compartmentalize, to categorize, to organize these obligations, we will find that they actually function in complementary ways, working together to enable lives with infinite potential for holiness, meaning, and justice." Rabbi Alpert continues, "We can draw inspiration from the holistic ideas of this work in our work for global justice. Instead of approaching each issue separately, we should explore the ways in which injustices are interconnected and mutually reinforcing." When I was in El Salvador, I saw this playing out as we worked with a small agricultural community called Ciudad Romero. It was a group of refugees who had fled El Salvador during the Civil War and had returned to start a beautiful agricultural village. We saw the values in this work of sustainable development, values of building community, of protecting the environment, of supporting workers' rights, of educating the youth, of all of this working together in one. We didn't just have to choose one chocolate bar. And that's really the beauty of sustainable development, that when we lift people up, when we give people the tools to help themselves in this type of work, we see how interconnected all of these values are. In an ideal world, our tradition teaches we don't have to choose which chocolate bar to buy. We don't have to choose between our obligation to the environment, our obligation to local community, our obligation to global justice, because they all are interconnected. As we navigate this difficult world in which we are all pulled in so many different directions, and we do sometimes have to prioritize, may we remember the message from this week's Torah portion, the message that we learn from those that teach sustainable development, that when we see our work as interconnected, as holistic, we have the power to truly bring justice and compassion into this world. Shabbat Shalom. Praying for that time when there truly will be justice and peace in this world, we turn to Aleinu on pages 282, followed by 287. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week, our congregation observes Yahrzeit for Suzanne Albert, Susan Axler, Joel Becker, Alan Esther Bergsman, Sylvan K. Bernstein Sr., Max Brenman, Barbara Sranko Breyer, J. Stanley Cohen, Evelyn Cohn, Naomi Diamond, Marvin Mordechai Ellenbogen, Laura Epstein, Ada L. Schwam Edelson, Sylvia Fair, David Feld, Jenny Fink, David C. Finston, Janet Schaefer Fleischer, Hortense Langsdorf Fox, Mabel S. Friedenberg, Isaac Metzel Garfield, Flora Miller Goldsmith, Samuel Gorchov, Isidore Edward Gordon, Ethel Sablasky Greenhouse, Milton E. Gundersheimer, Fanny Hassler, Rhoda Nussbaum Heimerdinger, Louise S. Herzberg, Margaret G. Jacobs, Samuel S. Kalischer, Francis Canoff, Theodore J. Cauters, Ronald Kelly, Simon Kirschbaum, Horace Cohn, Sidney O. Krasnoff, Karen Crum, Jeffrey Loff, Alan Joseph Lauber, Claire Levy Levi, Cecile F. Levine, Morris Lifter, Cora L. Mayer, Beverly McDonald, Gordon McDowell, Beverly McDowell, Gordon McDowell, Daniel T. Morris, Robert Nemiroff, Molly Seidman Rabb, Louis E. Rudo, Paula Sales, Bernard Shackman, Bennett Schlanger, Gordon F. Schwartz, Sadie G. Schwartz, Stephen M. Cedar, Alexander Sherman, Mark Sigismund, Mildred M. Sigismund, Louis Silverman, Morris Silverstein, Ethel M. Simon, David Singer, Jacob Snyder, Isolda Solo, William R. Summer, Lee Stanley, Bayard C. Stone, Rosa Strauss, Leon C. Sunstein, Betty Tassman, Sylvia Thomas, Harry Trobman, Alexander L. Vogelson, Sylvia Weiss, Henry M. Wexelblatt, Flossie Willis, Peter Winokur Jr., Joseph M. Winston, Goldina Wolf, Lillian Wolf, Reba Wood, Evelyn D. Zoll. We add the names of those who've been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts in these most recent days, for whom we are observing Shiloshim, the 30 days of mourning. Joel Eichen, Samuel Marion Efron, Joyce Neff, Nancy Schreier. If you are observing Yahrzeit or Shiloshim for a loved one whose name was not mentioned, I invite you to write their names in the chat or to speak their names aloud at this time. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We turn to page 294 and rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hiroteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei d'kudusha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace and comfort to us all, and let us say, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen.
We wish wish you a Shabbat Shalom. If you are new to the congregation, you'd like to find out how to connect more, please talk to the wonderful Ellen Poster, who is waving and smiling in the back and would love to greet you. We will conclude tonight with the words of Rabbi Lawrence Kushner. He writes, "And so we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, often even unknown to themselves. Yet if they had not been there, if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now. Never forget that you too yourself may be a messenger."
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's light shine upon us, and may God be gracious unto us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May we feel God's presence within us always, and may we find peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.